Hey guys, what's up? This is Turpitu. Hope you guys are doing okay and welcome to the video. This will be a part 2, so just a continuation of my last video in GUI fundamentals. So in my last video we covered what a GUI is, what the different types are, what different properties are as well, and how you can create a GUI, how to size and position it properly on the user's screens. And after that I was like, the video took quite a while, and I was like, I'll just teach you the other stuff that I do want to show, but in another video instead, otherwise the video is going to be like over an hour long. But yeah, so as I said in that previous video, I did say in this video I wanted to do tweening. So tweening just means like animating like the positioning or the size of a UI component, for example. I wanted to also show you how to use the different UI, there's UI like items that you can use, like UIPadding, UI lists, stuff like that I also want to show. And I also want to show how you could use a scrolling frame to make like a menu, kind of like a shop menu I suppose, where you can scroll down and get items, and in that we basically use grid layout as well. But yeah, so I'll teach you all of that. Hopefully it won't be as long as my last video, but yeah, I think I can get started. So first let's create our UI. So I'm gonna do I'm just gonna speed this up just so I can get the button made. So I'm gonna do that now. Alright, yo guys, I'm back, and as you can see I've successfully made my shop I guess components. So I got my shop button here. What this button is supposed to do is simply just make this main shop frame visible or not. And then if I open up my Explorer, so that's the frame. It's made up of a UI component. It has a text label, which is just a header, and this is a scrolling frame that I've shown in the last video. Pretty much everything that you can see on screen I have taught you in the previous video, so this is definitely a skill that you can already do right now. You should just go try it out. But yeah, so as you can see I've got my scrolling frame, and I've got a single button inside here. So how is it that in games they are able to make it so it's more like a grid layout? Surely they wouldn't copy and paste the same, button over and over again, and then having to reposition every button like a little bit. You wouldn't be able to actually do that, because one, that takes really long, but two, there's basically a lot easier method to do that. So at the end of the day we still do copy and paste the items, the different buttons, and as you can see when I copy and paste it, it'll always be in the same location. But what we're gonna do here though is use something called UIGridLayout. You would think it might be list layout, but nope, it's actually UIGridLayout. And basically as soon as you put it in, you can see that it automatically just lays everything out as a grid, and it's literally as simple as that. That's basically it. So if you can see here in the properties, there's a whole lot of different properties that you can check out. So there's fill direction, there's max cells, there's sort order and start order, and whether you want it to start on the left or on the top. But yeah, so you can go and play around with it in Roblox Studio, but they're pretty straightforward. It's just to customize your grid. So let's say I wanted it to be on the right, I could just change this to be on the right. Simple as that really. But yeah, so the two main things that we actually care about here is cell padding and cell size as well. So as you can see here, I don't really like it, it's a bit too big. So also, not even that, it's first of all it's made in pixels as well. As you can see, it's 100 pixels, so we need to definitely change that so it's using cell size instead. So let me see what my original size was. So yeah, it was 0.15, 0.15. You can see that it's grayed out by a red warning sign. It just basically shows that it's no longer using this size or position anymore. But yeah, so we're just gonna change this to those values, and hopefully it should look good. It doesn't look good. But this is because I was set to use the size constraint relative XX. However, for some reason it's overriding it. It's changing it to XY. So what we're gonna do here is simple. We just basically just change the Y to match whatever we want it to be. So here you're gonna have to change it and then checking it with your eyes to see if it's actually like, you know, square like you want it to be. However, rest assured this will still stay as a square regardless of what screen you are, so that is fine. But yeah, I'm gonna say this looks like a square. I'd say, yeah, I'll say it's a square. Then after that, we want to change the padding as well, because even though the padding is 5 pixels, you might not think it's that much, but in a phone, for example, a phone screen doesn't have that many pixels. 5 is quite a lot. So what we're going to do here, I'm just going to once again try and base it off scaling. I'm going to go off with that number. As you can see here, it's a bit too apart in my opinion, so I'm going to change it to 0.2. But I'm going to do the same here. So when I do copy and paste it, you can see that you know, it maintains that padding basically between the items. So what else is there for me to do on here? There is this issue of the scroll bar, first of all, blocking it. So over here you can't really do that much about it, which is a bit annoying. Because personally, this happens to me as well. I don't really like it. Can I do it? Oh yes. So yeah, I didn't see this property before when I was working on UI, but I haven't really worked on UI in a while, like on my project. But yeah, if you scroll down into scrolling frame and then go into vertical scroll bar inset, you can either put it into always or scroll bar. I guess one of those two settings will be just good enough. So basically, what that means is that when it does the scaling from 0 to 1, so usually 1 will be, you know, the entire scrolling frame, but 1 will now, with this setting enabled, and to scroll bar always, I'm not too sure what always is supposed to be, but scroll bar basically means that sorry about that. If we set the insert into scroll bar always, it just means that 1 will now just be the size that it would be before it reaches the scrolling bar. So basically it's just the size without the scrolling bar included. That's how it calculates that. But yeah, so what I'm gonna do here though is, I don't like it being on the left. I'm gonna leave it as center. And then what else I could do here is I want to change the size of it. So I'm gonna change it to 1.6 so that it can create a new item on a new row, so there's no gap, so it's not like touching the scroll bar basically. That's what I mean. So I'm gonna change this to 0.12. But yeah, you obviously don't have to copy these values. You can make it as big as you want or as small as you want, depending on what you want. But for this shop, we're just gonna, you know, leave it like that. Now we've got our UI created for the we've got our UI created. It now has the items that we can copy and paste into. Obviously just a scroll bar as well, so we can put in a lot more items than usual. Let's say we wanted to make it shorter, we can just go into scrolling frame, we can go into canvas size, and then we can, instead of changing it to 2, we can change it to 1 maybe. But then 1, yeah, it's basically like that. And obviously once you change your canvas size, you're gonna have to also change your cell size and your grid layout, so don't forget about that. I'm just gonna change that to another, you know, value that I feel like is good. So I'm gonna say like that. Yeah, but yeah, that's how you would lower or increase the canvas size in the scrolling frame, which just basically means you have more space to scroll pretty much. So I think I'm good with that. And yeah, that's basically how you would set up this inside scrolling frame of a shop. You can also, you know, take this skill and use it in an inventory system as well. So I could have an inventory and have all these items be in here. And then basically what you can simply do is you can either always just, when the user, let's say for example, presses on the inventory, you can always make it so that the script will just create buttons, but it'll follow like a guideline. So just copy a button, it'll probably change the name, add in like an image or a viewport frame, So a viewport frame is just something that, you know, is used to render an item or like an object in a UI. So you could put that in and then change it as well according to the items that the user has in their inventory. That's one way that you can use this scrolling frame with. And then yeah, so that's how you can use that pretty much. What I want to do show you next is let's say instead of whenever the user clicks on shop, instead of it having to just go invisible and visible, let's say we want it to resize so it goes inwards and then it goes outwards when we're opening it again. So with that, for example, we can basically do something called tweening. So we use a service called TweenService. So it's not on here, but it is a service that you can basically use in your code that just allows it so you can animate UI components, and it's just not UIs only. You can also animate parts moving in the space. You can also change the colors to make it change from transition from one color to another. Basically anything that has anything to do with transitioning, you can use TweenService for. But in this case, I'm just going to show you how you can use it to tween this size to go inwards and outwards, and I'll also tween how to make it go from away from your screen and then back inside your screen. So yeah, so what we're gonna do is yeah, let's just create a local script. I'm gonna go into my text button and I'll create my local script. And then what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna create something called a local debounce. So debounce is just a variable, and it's basically we will use debounce so that we know whether the user is currently pressing a button and there's an event that's happening. So basically it just locks off the button. So let's say when I click on the button, it's gonna be a short animation period, right, for it to go in or out. So during that time, the user shouldn't be able to click on the button again. That's how I like to do my things, like my coding. Obviously, there are also another way of like dealing with that issue. What you can do is just basically just cancel the ongoing tween and then just retween it pretty much. But for now, I'm just gonna use a debounce, just so it looks cleaner in my opinion. So scripts, I'm going to do script.parent.mouse button one click. So if you went in the last episode, this was taught, and basically just an event that listens to mouse clicks from the user. And then we're going to do if debounce, if not debounce, then so this basically means if debounce is equals to false, then we're going to set debounce to true. And now if you see, if I were to press on the button, debounce will now become true, and then if the user clicks on it again, it will not work anymore, because now it'll go into here, it'll check if debounce equals false, but it doesn't detect that, and then it's just gonna end itself. And then at the end of our our animation, we're gonna set debounce back to false so we can unlock the button so the user can press it basically. So just gonna set debounce to true, and then what we're gonna do here is we need to also include local TweenService in your script. So here I'm going to write down a variable, then I'm going to use equals, and then I'm going to do game, and then get service, and then we're going to put in the service that we want. So here we're going to want TweenService, so you just put that in as a string, and then that's it. So now with this, we'll be able to use TweenService functions. There's 3 things that we need to know before we create a tween. So to create a tween, one, we need the component that we want to manipulate. So here I'm going to manipulate the frame. So I want to manipulate the that component. And then 2, we need to have a goal in mind for the TweenService. So here I want it to resize from whatever size it is currently, so 1 and 0.6 down to 0 and 0. So that just basically means it's just gonna go from this size all the way inwards. And then 3, we need to have something called tween information, which just basically contains information about like how long do you want it to take, the animation style, like do you want it to be linear or do you want it to be cubic, stuff like that basically. So those are 3 things that we want. So in order to create a tween, we need those 3 things. So 1 is the component that we want to manipulate, 2 is the goals that we want, and 3 is the tweening style and direction and time that we want, so tween information. So yeah, so I'm going to start off with the goal currently. So I'm going to do local goal equals, we're going to do a table. So I showed you in the previous video, but the video before my GUI fundamentals video. So we're just going to do local goal equals curly brackets, then we're going to do position, but make sure that, not position, we're going to do size, size equals, and then whenever we manipulate a UI's position or size, we can create that like, do you see how this is form of a, two tables and the same in size? We do something called UDIM2. So we do UDIM2, and then we're going to do .new, and then our goal is simple, so just go to 0 0 0 0. So obviously this is a similar format to our size and position. So the first number is the scale of x. Well, it says here, to be honest, but yeah, so the second number will be the offset of x, and then it'll be the y scale, and then the y offset, pretty much. So similar layout to what we're following here in position and size and the properties. We're gonna put the goal as that size equals udim2.new 0 0 0 0 0. And then actually what we also need is we need to know the state of our shop as well, if it's visible or not. So we're gonna first of all assume that it's not visible. So, but to be fair, we can simply just do it like this. So if script.parent, so it's going all the way back into this this thingy, the screen UI, and then we want to check the frame. So if script.parent.parent.parent.frame, but we'll make this a variable actually. Local shop frame equals script.parent.parent.frame. If shop frame.visible, then so if the shop frame is visible, I'm gonna put local goal as that actually, because I wanna change this depending on if it's visible or not. So I'm just gonna remove this local, and now this is basically just meaning that we create a local goal variable that's empty, and then we'll reset the variable depending on whether the shop frame is visible or not. Yeah, so if the shop frame is visible, we want it to resize so it's down to 0 0 0. If the shop frame isn't visible, we want it to resize so that the size is what the current size is now. So if I was not wrong, it was 1 0 and then 0.6. So that's our goal. So now it'll either resize it so it's basically going to be gone at the end of the tween, or we're going to resize it so it tweens it back to the normal size pretty much. And then we're going to do local tween info. Once again, you don't have to follow these variables. However, in your goal, you must follow this naming. So for example, we're going to change the size, but if we want to change position, we could do position. Yeah, so you have to always keep that, followed. But the goal variable and stuff, that can be changed to whatever name you want. So with tween information, we're going to do it like this. So we're going to do, I believe, tween info. So we're going to write that down, .new, and then we're going to do brackets. And then now, if you can scroll here, you can see that it gives you different parameters that you want. You can also open up the documentation as well. But what we're interested in is the first three. So to be fair, we don't really need the other two that comes after time. So the other two is something called easing style and easing direction. So this just basically makes it so you can customize how during the tweening animation, like how you want it to move along its path basically. So if we were to do linear, it would move across its path all with one speed. However, if we do it with another easing style, we could make it so it moves fast in the beginning but slower at the end, or vice versa. But that's if you do want to manipulate that. But for now, I'm just going to make it so we don't want to change it. They'll be set to a default of, I believe, linear for the easing style, and then the easing direction would probably be out. But yeah, so the first number is the thing that we're interested in, and it's mandatory. So we're gonna just set this to, we're gonna do 0.5. And then afterwards, we have to create the actual tween itself. So we're gonna do local tween equals, okay, so for local tween, we're gonna do TweenService. We're gonna do colon and then create. And then what we're gonna do here is we're gonna give it the 3 things that we wanted in the beginning, right? So we're gonna give it the component, so shop frame, pardon me, we're gonna give it tween info, and we are also gonna give it the goal, I believe. And then hopefully we can do tween play, and if we play it, it should work. Yeah. I did forget to make debounce be set to false. So before we do that, what we're gonna do here is when we create the tween, it's gonna now create the actual animation component. However, it's not gonna play it or anything. We have to play it on the component afterwards. So we're gonna do tween, and then we can do play. If you wanna stop it, for example, you can do pause or cancel. But we're not gonna mess around with those other functions for now. So yeah, but however, when we use tween play, this does not yield the script, which is important. Yielding just means that it doesn't hang up the script. So it's good in some cases, but in this case, I want it so debounce is set to false after the animation is done. So I'm just gonna simply do task.wait, and then I'm gonna wait the time that we gave it. So we're gonna do 0.5, and then we're gonna make debounce equals false. And then over here, we do want the frame to be not visible, so I'm gonna set visibility to false. Then when I press play, oh right, I forgot to make it visible. If shop frame visible equals true. Alright, so if the shop frame isn't visible, then we want it to be visible. And then, yeah, but I'm gonna do it so if, what could I do here? If shop frame, oh, I'm gonna just do false. Shop frame is visible. To be fair, we could just do this. If goal dot size equals udem 2.new. Yeah. So just gonna do that. So this basically means that, so let's say for example right now the frame is not visible. Obviously if we were to press play, the frame wouldn't go visible straight away, we'd have to code it. So what we did here is it checks if the shop frame is visible. If it's not visible, we want it to be visible. But you think that it might pop up really quickly as big and then start off as small. But thing is, that's what would happen, but the user wouldn't be able to see it. It'll be just that quick, the script. Unless the script is really slow, it shouldn't be. But we don't really have to worry about it like quickly flickering big and then going quickly to small, for example. It should be fine. But yeah, so it's gonna set it to true. However, if the shop frame is already visible, it's gonna resize it back to 0000, right? So it's gonna be really tiny. And then we just simply check what the goal size initially was between, and if it was 0000, just set the shop frame back to being not visible. So now this should work. Yeah, works wonderful. However, you did see in the beginning of the script, it did start off as big. So what we can do here is, once again, we can just change it in this part of the if statement where it's checking if it's where it'll occur when it's not visible. We just set the size here to udem to .new. You can just do that pretty much, and now it should work. Yeah. So as you can see here with TweenService, we can make it so it animates it going from in and then out. So that was pretty straightforward. So that's one use case of TweenService. You can also use it to, let's say you wanted to slide it going from the center of your screen to the left or to the right or to the top or to the bottom. You can use it like that. However, it's simple. Like, just change in the goals. We just, instead of using size, just set it to use position. However, I don't think I'll have time to go over that in this tutorial, because I don't want to make it be an hour long, like, you know, that'd be a bit too long. But Yeah, so what I want to do here is teach you the one last thing that I wanted to show you. So as you can see here in our button, you can see that text is literally right on the edge. I don't know if there's situations where this would be desirable, but for me currently I don't really like that. What we can do here is do something called UI padding. So we're gonna do UI padding, and then we just simply do the scale and the offset number, and then we can just basically we can customize a padding. So if you don't know what padding is, padding just means if there's any space in between the text and the edges, pretty much. That's what it means. So here you just pretty much play around with it. So on the left, for example, I do want to change it like that. So I'm going to set it to 0.1 scale, so it looks the same on, you know, any screen size. Kind of looks a bit too much now. So I'm going to change it to 0.5. And then I'm just going to do the same to the bottom and the top as well, just so it's all equal. Accidentally typed hashtag. And then yeah, that's how you use padding. It's pretty straightforward. I'm gonna make this visible as well. You can also introduce padding to these items as well. So just so there's space between the edges of the frame. So if you want your frames to look nice and your UI, I highly recommend that you do that. There's another what would you even call this? UI assistance components, I guess. There's something else that I really use a lot as well. So I use UI corners, I use UI padding as well. There's something called UIGradient, I mean. So this is pretty much just gonna give it a gradient to the background color. So actually no, I'm gonna leave transparency 0.5 for now. So let's say we wanted it to be darker from the bottom but a bit lighter on the top. What we can do here is create it. I don't know why it's... Oh, when you click on color, make sure you click on the 3 dots, and then basically on the left we just set it to a lightish color, and then on the right we set it to the same color but a bit darker basically. So it's a gradient. I think in this instance it's changing my text color for some reason. don't know why. Yeah. I don't think there's a way for me to customize whether it goes onto my background or whether it goes onto my text. But yeah, that's how you introduce a UI gradient. I know for a fact you can do it in frames directly to the background. So if I just copy and then I just paste that. No, I can't tell. Is that because of transparency? Maybe. Let's see. Usually it's fine. Yeah. Seems like it's basing off the initial background color as well, black. That's why it's messing up my gradient. Yeah, I think I must have forgot. Because once again, I haven't really made UI in a while. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm just gonna set it to -90, so it's going from up and down. And as you can see here, it just basically adds a gradient to it. So that's how you would use UI gradient. So if you put it in a frame, it's going to change the background. If I use it in a text button or a text label, it's going to change the text label. Well, it's going to change the actual text color, I mean. Yeah. And obviously if you put it in a scrolling frame, it's going to change the scrolling frame's background too. So that's how you use UI gradient to, once again, make your UI look clean, right? And then aside from that, I also use UIGridLayout for these, these menus where I'm gonna have lots of items in, like the inventory or a shop. You can probably see it in my previous games I've made. Aside from that, I don't think there's anything else that I really use. Yeah, I don't really use any of the other ones pretty much. So yeah, I did want to just show you all of that just in case, just before I do finish the video. So UI corners, UI gradient, UI grid layout as well, and UI padding. I think those 4 are very important. I think the other ones basically add constraints as well to like your size of your frames and stuff, just in case you want it to only be like set to a maximum or to a minimum size. You can You can do that with the, I think one of them is size constraint. Yeah, UI size constraint. But I don't really use it, to be fair. If you do want to look into it, you can you know, you can search up on Google, check out the documentation, and try it out for yourself in Studio. But yeah, I think that's pretty much everything that I did want to show in this part 2 of GUI fundamentals. So just to recap what we did, we simply just went over how to tween the frame of the menu. How and then after that I taught you how to create a scrolling frame that has buttons with a UI grid layout, so we can lay it out for stuff where there'll be lots of items needed, such as inventory or shop. And lastly, I just showed you how you use these other UI components to adjust your UI and make it look better, so the UI corners, gradient, and UI grid layouts, and UI padding as well. And yeah, I think that's pretty much everything that I did want to teach about UIs. If you have any questions or if you need any help, just be sure to just write it down in the comments below. But yeah, I hope you do enjoy the video, and I hope you learned something new as well. And you should try it out. Get your Roblox Studio open now if you haven't already. Try it out, create your own UI, and see how well you do. It might not be amazing at first, but hey, we all started from somewhere, right? But yeah, if you do enjoy the video, just be sure to like, leave a subscribe as well, so you have, so you know when there's new videos coming out. And yeah, I'll just catch you in the next video.